to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
Okay,
for all.
cool.
Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight, March 18th, 2020, at 6 p.m. I'm going to read the legal notice of the public hearing for the Board of Selectmen. We are at the Portland Senior Center in the Mary Lou Rice Room at 7 Waverly Avenue. Pursuant to Section 405.3 of the Town Charter, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, March 18, 2020, at 6 p.m. in the Senior Center to provide residents opportunity to comment both orally and in writing on the proposed fees for administering the building code permits. The first 1,000 or portion thereof is currently $15. We are proposing to raise that to $25. For every 1,000 or portion thereafter, it is currently $12, and we are proposing that it go to $15. Construction without a permit is currently $100, and the proposal is to not have that. That will be not applicable since it has been removed from local jurisdiction, and it is for the future to be actually prosecuted by the state of Connecticut. Second, pursuant to Section 405.3 of the Town Charter, a public hearing will be held by the Board of Selectmen also on Wednesday, March 18, 2020, in the Senior Center to provide residents opportunity to comment both orally and in writing on the proposed fees for Public Works Resource Recovery, the rates effective July 1, 2020. For transfer station permit fee, it's currently $30. That will remain $30 effective July 1, 2020. The small bags are currently $1. We are proposing that be raised to $2 each small bag effective July 1. Medium bags will remain as they are now, which is $4 each. The large bags will remain as they are now at $5 each. Antifreeze will remain at $1.50 per gallon. Bulky waste will rise from $1.50 to $1.75 per ton, and that is due to our vendor raising prices.
Susan.
Yes.
Susan, 100. 150.
Excuse me, 150 to
175.
175. Thank you, I apologize. Freon will go and remain at $20 as it is now. Propane tank for each will remain at $12. Tires will remain for cars at $5. Tires for truck will remain at $15 as it is now. Unacceptable mattresses for the mattress recovery program is now $30, and that will go to $40. And a new item, brush for residents only who possess a permit. We don't charge anything for that. That will go to $40 per ton. Pursuant to Section 1213 of the Town Charter, the public hearing will be held by the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, March 18, 2020, in the Senior Center to provide residents the opportunity to comment, both orally and in writing, on proposed increase to water and sewer usage rate to take effect as follows. Current rate for the water usage rate is $4.90 per 100 cubic feet. The proposal for an increase effective July 1, 2020 is $5.11 per 100 cubic feet. That is a 4.25% increase. Proposed increase to take effect April 1, 2021 would go to $5.33 per 100 cubic feet, which is also a 4.25% increase over the July 1, 2020 rate. Sewer usage rate is currently $6.55 per 100 cubic feet. The proposal for July 1, 2020 will be $6.78 per 100 cubic feet, which represents a 3.5% increase. Proposed for April 1, 2021, the increase, also 3.5%, would be $7.02. Additional changes to the sewer department rates are as follows. A flat rate of $40 per quarter per customer, effective July 1, 2020, and then adjusted to a flat rate fee of $45 per quarter per customer, effective April 1, 2021. Processed material fees, also known as septic waste receiving fees, will increase from the current amount of $85 to a proposed amount of $100, effective July 1, 2020. For customers on the sewer system, but not on the water system, of which we have very few customers, the following calculation is used for quarterly billing. 2,100 cubic feet per quarter multiplied by the current rate plus $40 flat fee effective July 1, 2020, and $45 flat fee effective April 1, 2021. Currently, the September-October reading, residential customers are billed an average combined consumption of the previous 3 quarters or the actual metered water usage, whichever is less. The sewer billings from, if this is accepted, would no longer be the case, that is stricken, and instead the following would be inserted. All billings based on actual meter usage, water usage for customers on the town water system, effective July 1, 2020. The application fee to connect to the sewer system would increase from $50 to $75, effective July 1, 2020. The commercial, industrial, and municipal customers to be billed quarterly based on metered usage. Additional changes to the rates and charges of the Portland water regulations as follows are hereby adopted, if this is approved. Under Section A9, Rates and Charges, Section A.9.1, Establishment of Water Use Rates. Pursuant to Chapter 102 of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended, and Sections 406 and 1213 of the Charter of the Town of Portland, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Portland, Connecticut adopted the following water rates and water charges, and it would be perhaps effective today, March 18, 2020, depending on action taken later. The rates would be as follows. A.9.2 meter rates. Usage rate would no longer be $4.90 per 100 cubic feet effective 7/1/2019, and it would go effective 7/1/2020 to $5.11 per 100 cubic feet, and then effective April 1, 2021, the rate would go to $5.33 per 100 cubic feet. The flat meter charges, currently for a 5/8 inch meter, it's $35 per quarter. Proposed July 1, 2020, it would go to $40, and proposed for April 1, 2021, would go to $45. The 3/4 inch meter is currently $35. The proposal is for effective July 1, 2020, that rate would go to $40, and then effective April 1, 2021, would go to $45. 1 inch is currently $47. It would go to $54 effective July 1, 2020, and then effective April 1, 2021 would go to $60. For a meter the size of 1.5 inches, $70 is the current per quarter fee. It would go on July 1, 2020 to $80 and to $90 effective April 1, 2021. The 2-inch meter is currently $89. Proposed for July 1, 2020 would go to $102, and then proposed for 4/1/21 would go to $115. The 3-inch meter is currently $105. That's proposed to go to $121 on July 1, 2020, and then to $136 on April 1, 2021. The 4-inch meter is currently $135. The proposal for July 1, 2020 would go to $155, and then proposal for April 1, 2021 would go to $175. The 6-inch meter is currently $155. That would go effective July 1, 2020 to $178, and then proposed for April 1, 2021 to $200. The meter size 8 inches is currently $175 per quarter. That would go for a proposed date of 7/1/2020 to $201, and then proposed for April 1, 2021 would go to $226. This hearing was dated on the 5th day of March 2020, and it was advertised in the River East, and it signed Susan Bransfield for Selectmen. I've asked the chairman of our Water and Sewer Subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Jim Tripp, to give some information and background, in particular on the water and sewer rates, and I'm going to ask him to take the podium at this point. Jim?
Okay, the proposed rate changes that are being put in place are really to cover and handle a couple of different things that are happening. What we have found in our water system, we've been running a deficit that's largely being driven by the very steep increases we've seen over the last 3 years from MDC. And in the water, on the sewer side of the house, we knew that when we looked at these 2 years ago, that we were going to have a little bit more work to do because they were running a larger deficit, and we wanted to get there over a series of years versus trying to get there all in 1 year. I'm going to really start off talking about the water to make it, to work through, just the methodology that was used. I think it's always important to know how we got there. The methodology was really to take a look at actual usage numbers, taking a look back at the last fiscal year that was completed. This is the year that's under audit that we have the best numbers for. And we used those, the usage data, and then applied it against the rates to come up with what the required rate adjustments would be to get to the current operating budgets that have been proposed. The rates, as the first select woman had outlined, would increase predominantly, the vast majority of folks folks are on either a 5/8 meter or a 3/4 meter. That's your typical household size. So that ultimately would go from $35 to $40, and then from $40 to $45, and the corresponding 4.25% increases in both of the years. That results, if you take a look and you taking an average look at what's going to happen in each year. In year one, you'd see about a $39.61 increase, or roughly about $3.30 a month. That's based on an average user. Folks that use a little bit more water than average will see a slightly higher increase in terms of dollars, and folks that use a little bit less water, that'll be a little bit less than that. As we talked about, and you've heard, we've been reporting on this and working on this since last fall in earnest, and trying to address some of what's going on with the rates. And I'm going to say that now we've met, I think, between 6 and 12 times, probably closer to 12. I should have taken the time to count, but I didn't prior to this meeting. But we have, Rick Shar is also a member on the committee, and as well as Ralph Zampano. And it's been a lot of work, and the goal has really been to look and see what do we need to do. What do we need to do to get these accounts into balance, and how do we do it in a way that is it gets us to where we have to go to support the cost of the systems, but in a way that tries to phase it in as evenly as we can. I'll tell you, for example, with the water rates, if you look at an average user, it's roughly a 50-50 split. The increase in the cost of the meter increases is about 50% of that $40 that's going to go up over an average year. The other 20 comes from rates, right? So again, trying to find some balance in how those rates are adjusted. I think it's also very important to talk about what's going on with the MDC. Over the last 3 years, Right now, the single largest cost in our water budget is the buying of water from MDC. We're required, because of a 30-year contract, to continue to buy 146 million gallons of water per year. That's going to be the case until 2026. Now, the contract was actually signed in January of 1996, and we're about 5.5 years away from completing that contract. To put it in perspective, the last 3 years, the historical average for increases with MDC has been about 4%. The last 3 increases have been 13%, 11%, and this past one in January was 13.43%. What that does to us is that gives us a compounded rate of over 42% increase since this started. If they had stayed at that 4% average increase, the compounded rate of increase would have been about 12.5%. When you crunch the numbers on it, what it really means is that the amount that the water cost has gone up in the last 3 years, it would have taken 9 years for that water rate to get to that point. The water cost from MDC, to be clear, over if they had kept with their traditional increases. It's something that, as we look at it, both on the subcommittee, in the consultation with the Water and Sewer Commission, as we talk about it, it's not a sustainable path. Based on that, we do have a long-term goal, and what we're starting now, and you've heard us talk about it in previous meetings, is how do we start moving towards having Portland-owned water sources. We're considering reactivating the wells that were drilled several years ago. We'd have to reactivate those licenses. But we're also looking potentially at drilling a couple of additional test wells, and the reason for that is if we, in the area that we're looking, if we can get water that we don't need to treat, the long-term operational costs are going to be less. So we're working on that so that given the time frames that are required to do that work, we want to be ready when we get to the end of this contract to transition over to water sources that are going to allow us to have a much better cost model for our residents. When we talk about where we were at the end of the audit in water, we had a $55,000 deficit. Again, we would have been running a surplus when we look at the numbers, other than the way the increases came in, and we knew we had to account for another 13% increase, as well as additional forecasted increases that are MDC is continuing to forecast in double digits. So the bottom line is that we really looked at a $72,000 increase on top of the 55, and we knew we had to start closing that. That's happened in a couple of ways, one of which is obviously the increases that we're proposing, but I also want folks to know that, you know, in addition to water increases going up, our Director of Public Works, Bob Shea, has been working very hard to keep costs down and try to manage those. So, for example, even though the water the water cost itself, which right now is 52% of our operating budget, even though that went up 13.43%, the actual operating budget for the water system is up 1.1% in the proposed budget. So there were definitely a lot of hard work in looking for offsets to try to keep other costs down, to try to minimize what we need to do to bring these into balance. When we go on and take a look at with sewer rates and why the proposals, sewer actually, prior to what started to happen with water costs, was actually the more difficult of the two challenges. We were in a higher state of deficit, and we knew it was going to take a few years to get there. So we basically used the same methodology that we used for water. We took a look at the actual usage data that was reported by basically in our billing systems, and we applied rates to that and applied it against the operating budget. The recommended increase there is 3.5% in each of the next 2 years, and again going up $5 for the connection charge, again per quarter in each of the for each of the next 2 years. So the rates would go for the next quarter from $35 to $40, and then in April of 2021 they would go from $40 to $45. The increase here is a little bit over $40. It's $40.32 for the average user, or about $3.36 a month. Again, you'll see roughly about a $40 per year increase in year one, and then roughly another $40 increase in year two. The primary drivers for that were closing the $90,419 deficit that had been recorded per the audit. One of the reasons that's important is that we've had an accumulated debt of about $740,000. So this is something that we want to address to make sure we get into balance. This is, when we look at this, these are, I think, we had a very, very good report from our auditors. These were actually the two items that have been identified that we need to work on, and that's one of the goals of what we're doing tonight. So, thank you very much, and I look forward to questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. That ends the presentation portion of the public hearing. So I will ask Kevin Armstrong, who is controlling our board, whether there's any comments from the audience. Okay, there is a question.
All right, pick it up. There we go. Yep, so we have a question from Dave Murphy, 40 Carousel Drive. Have we started allowing septic waste receivings? I know at one time we stopped that. Couldn't that be a good source of revenue?
The answer is no, we haven't. One of the reasons it was stopped is that when they're trying to keep the sewer system in balance, and basically when they're trying to keep what they refer to as the bugs, but effectively the microbes that break down the waste in balance, when you have folks bringing in stuff from outside sources, taking waste that is in a much more concentrated fashion that's being dumped from trucks, it can very easily throw it out of balance. So they've looked at that, they've looked at the increased revenue and then the potential for it to impact the system, and what the operators have said is it's something they would right now prefer not to do. So it's an operational concern at this point.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, none at this time.
Okay. There being no further comments or questions, we will close the public hearing. It is 6:22 p.m. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock for our public workshop on the budget. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Susan Bransfield. I just wanted to read some comment that I'd received. I inadvertently did not talk about it when we were talking a few minutes ago, and it was a comment from David Murphy from Carousel Drive, and regarding the new fee for the brush drop-off. Dave had a question. What is the current total cost to mulch our brush? Does this fee include mulching and removal? If so, can we see about saving that removal cost and keeping it local? If we add this, will it require additional manpower at the transfer station at a much higher cost, such as an additional person? And today, when I go there, I'm not checked for a sticker if dropping off brush. Someone would now have to stop all cars to check for stickers. It appears there's not enough manpower to stop vehicles, check stickers, and also run the scale. Thoughts? I did ask Bob Shea to review some of this, and he will be here in a few minutes. He just wasn't able to be here at this time. So when we reconvene, I'm going to have him answer those questions. Okay? So I just want to be sure it was part of the record. Thank you.